Hello, hello, hello. This is Talking Manchester United, a United Stand podcast with myself, Paul Gardner, and joining me today from across the pond, it's Andrew Southwick. Andrew, how are you, my friend?
Oh, I am feeling good. Finally getting Harry Maguire across the line. It's amazing. But I'm excited for the start of the season. I can officially say I'm excited for the start of the season.
Yep, I think I mirror those comments. I think we all are, to be fair. Well, let's come across to Martin. Martin Pert, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Evening all. I am very good. I am thoroughly looking forward to the next 48 hours. Because I actually don't think that we are not going to. I think we are going to sign someone else. Now I think there's a lot of movement going in the transfer window. So I'm actually more optimistic than I was this time last week.
Yeah, I think I am as well. To be fair, I've never doubted the fact that we would sign somebody else after Harry Maguire. A midfielder has to come in, and I think we will do that. Matthew, thank you for joining us once again. How are you?
Not too bad myself, actually. I'd pretty much echo exactly what you guys are saying. And well, it's been a bit of a mixed week, in all honesty. Saying Slabhead himself is finally a few rumours or whatever have just seemed to have turned out exactly as they were, just rumours. But now, like Martin said, I hope that should be another sign in the next 48 hours, I think.
We'll soon find out. It's 5 p.m. Is it Thursday? The transfer window shuts.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I think I.
That's ever like that.
It's a bit of an odd time, but whatever. It is what it is. So let's move forward then. Let's get on with the podcast. So we've just finished Tour 2019, the Tour of Asia, coming over to Norway and finally finishing over in Wales against AC Milan. What do you guys think then of the Tour compared to? Let's compare it to last season for a start. I mean, there's a huge contrast compared to last summer. The players looked down. We weren't winning games. There was no real, system that we were trying. It was just seemed a bit meh. A complete contrast to this season. 6 wins from 6. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Man, 6-6. It was the shootout was quite interesting. A lot of people were talking about the fact that Mason Greenwood took the penalty with his off foot. Was into something we'll talk about later about who should be starting at the beginning of the season. Mason Greenwood has made a hell of a contention for himself based on this preseason to be able to start game one of the season. His contributions all preseason have been phenomenal. I think that overall the preseason it's left you with a bit of optimism. I think for the most part you could see the play style that Ollie's trying to bring. You could see what he's wanting to implement. I think that what you could say about what we're trying to do is that you can officially say we have a direction. I think you can say we have a direction. And there's my favorite thing is like I see some people that like to be negative about literally everything. They're complaining about the fact we haven't signed more people and blah blah blah. And all I could think is, you know what? I would prefer to sign the right people, as many people, and look like we're going to continue building the system that we're trying to build.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Definitely.
Like I would prefer to sign all championship players if they're going to come in and play for the right reasons than to bring in people like a Paulo Dybala or somebody that's going to only come in and play for money. And it looks like right now we're building a squad of people that want to play for the right reasons. So I hope that continues.
Well, the first 3 signings that have come in definitely mirror your comments there. Look at the likes of Daniel James, Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire. All want to play it. It's a step up for all of them. And that's kind of the sort of player we want to be looking for, a player that will be making a step up, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So Matthew, I'll come to you next then. As Andrew just said, there definitely looks like a style that we're going for. The football certainly looks progressive. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, when you compare it to last season, last season was a bit of a terrible one. In all honesty, I think we were drawing games 0-0 against MLS teams, losing 4-1 to Liverpool, and it just didn't seem to be any plan there.
It was dreadful. It was dreadful.
Like I still remember that goal from Shaqiri, the bicycle kick that will haunt me forever. That will. Liverpool fans actually selling T-shirts based on a pre-season goal. But yeah, this pre-season just seems to have this kind of identity to it, where you know exactly what Solskjaer's plan is, whether that can be executed across the whole 38-game season. At least you can actually see some kind of direction, and the players seem to be buying into it. And I think our new signings as well, Daniel James, yeah, he's not really got a goal. I'm not sure if he's set up one yet, but he seems to be that real threat in the counter-attack. And I think having that kind of person on the bench, in some regards, will just strike fear into any opposition as soon as you bring him on. So he seems to be doing well. Harry Maguire, I'm sure he's going to do fantastic this season. For me, he's one of the best centre-backs in the league, some people say. But really, one of the sort of standout stars who's kind of gone under the radar has been Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
I wouldn't say he's gone under the radar. I think a lot of people have been praising him, rightly so as well.
Yeah, when you sort of compare it to like Greenwood and stuff, a lot of people seem to be talking about Greenwood, but yeah, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I don't think he's missed a tackle yet. Absolutely unbelievable when it comes to defending. And I think we knew that before he signed, but actually seeing all those games that he's playing in, bloody hell, this is actually a good right back. We've not had one since, Raphael, and not had a really good right back since Gary Neville. I mean, it's taken us so long to actually get a specialist right back in that position.
I think it's taken us so long to get a specialist in any position, to be fair.
Well, yeah, that's true. Still need a few more players here and there, but especially right back when you've had guys like Antonio Valencia going in a mad decline, and naturally wingers, but just trying to be shoehorned in that position. It's actually just so refreshing to see someone who is actually a natural right back, not just any right back, a defensive one as well.
Yeah.
You just won't get past whatsoever. So pre-season, in terms of individual performances as well as the team performances, you can't really fault it.
No, I'd agree 100%. That was one of the
perfect record.
One of the things I had written down here was lots of great individual performances. Again, another stark contrast to what we've seen last season. Martin, I'll come to you next. Another point that Matthew just touched upon is that the players really do look up for it this season, especially in the pre-season tour. Obviously, pre-season this season hasn't started yet, but the players definitely looking up for it. Lots of great individual performances during the tour, and a couple of the usual suspects, i.e. Ashley Young, Nemanja Matic. Give us your thoughts on the pre-season. What was your highlights? What was your lowlights?
Yeah, I think a pre-season for me is always about fitness, and obviously what the guys have talked about having an identity for the season and how we're going to play. In stark contrast to last year, with Mourinho just moaning the entire pre-season, that the team being so negative. It's also good to see that the press involvement with Man United throughout the pre-season hasn't been as scathing or has been in past years. The media always seem to cast a sort of a bit of doom and gloom on Man United, and nothing worse than last year. So it's quite good to see that obviously that the press can see a difference. There's a difference in the players. They all seem to be happy coming after the break, and the performances have been good. It's good to get the wins under the belt. I know they're friendly games, but it's all positivity going into the season. I don't know what you guys think, but I don't feel there's as much pressure on the team from media outlets and everywhere. I think there is that clear message that Man United are now going through a proper rebuild, and you can see that in terms of this this Manchester United DNA.
Do you think you can attribute that to the fact that we're actually winning? When we're losing, there's a lot of pressure. Now we're winning.
Yeah, I think there was those 12 games when we played brilliantly under Ollie, and then there was that dip of how we just didn't win a game towards the back end of the season. I think it was really evident there that there's something massively wrong with our squad and what's going on behind the scenes. So I think it's going to take this season to get that changed. And me personally, this pre-season and going into the season, I said at the end of last season, I've got absolutely no expectation of what I think Man United should be doing this year. If I can go into the season and just enjoy the football, I'd enjoy watching Man United again. Last season was so hard to enjoy or get up for. Biggest enjoyment last year was the Champions League and PSG and those games after Christmas where Ollie came in. That's kind of, I want that feel good factor about Man United again. And the pre-season is the what you would say the prelude going into what the expectation is. And my expectation is this season, Man United need to play good. We aren't. I think it'd be stupid for anyone to think that we're going to challenge Liverpool and City, because it's not about the squad. I think it's more about getting the DNA back into the team and the winning mentality back and the confidence to actually then kick on. But to me, we should be getting into that top four. But I just want to see good football. And from pre-season, things seem to be going that way. And we've addressed two massive issues in terms of our team, and that is our right back and our centre back. And our back four now, with De Gea, looks absolutely solid. We just need to build on that foundation going forward in the season, and get back to playing proper attacking football.
Now, speaking of defences, I just want to talk briefly about the AC Milan game, because for me, you guys may think differently, but for me, that was probably our most underwhelming game of the pre-season. We didn't have the same intensity that we displayed in the earlier games of the tour. And when I say that, what I mean is the constant high press, the closing down of the opposition's defenders, making life difficult for them. We didn't see that, or at least from when I was watching it, we'd seen it in drips and drabs, but not on a consistent basis like we have done earlier in the tour. What we did see instead, and again, this might just be me, so I'm interested to get all your input on this as well. It seemed to me like we were defending very narrow, and I wouldn't say very deep, but at least very narrow. Now, when I was watching the game, I was thinking they can't all be knackered already and too tired to maintain this high press. There's only 6 games. It's only the 6th game of pre-season. We've got another 38 games in the Premier League to play yet. They can't be knackered already, surely. And that's not a good sign. So I was thinking, is it that or is it tactics? Has Ollie set them up this way, knowing that AC Milan are good on the ball, can move the ball quickly? If we do play the high press, they'll just play straight round us. And we did see that a couple of times. So was this Ollie trying to set us up in a different way to deal with a different kind of opposition? What are your thoughts? I'll come to you first, Andrew.
No, I actually completely agree with that. I think that it was just a case of we changed our tactics. They talked about it during the MUTV, the fact that you could see that there was different tactics because AC Milan could play the ball so well. Now, you could also make the argument that our midfield was lacking Paul Pogba. We were lacking that creativity, that spark, and that drive, but it also goes into the fact that we need more signings. I will say that there's always that slight worry in the back of your mind because of, the way that last season ended, and it looked like all the players were just so dead. But I'm just hoping that I'm into the season with a renewed sense of urgency, and they'll all come in with, we've got to have our fitness levels up, and so far I would say that would seem to be the case. We obviously wound up winning that game, so I think that the tactics wound up being spot on. We hit on the counter well, and we had our own little bits of possession as well when you get into it. And while things might not be perfect, I think that we've certainly got something to build on. That we can see that we don't need to just do only one style. We can mix it up a bit. We could do different things.
Yeah, and it's something that he did need to do. We can't just be a one-trick pony. So that was one of my thoughts, is maybe that was a tactical decision to defend in that way as opposed to pressing. But then again, we played against Spurs, who we also know can play a quick pace of football, can pass the ball around quite a lot. But we were high press against them. Martin, what are your thoughts on that?
I thought the pace in the game was, I think, AC Milan dictated it. And to me, if you're going to play the pressing game, you've got to press from the front. And I think our midfield, missing Pogba in that midfield, and the midfield we put out in that game had a lot to do with that. I think we were overrun in the midfield for vast parts of the game. So I think trying to play that high press, you kind of need to have that set up from the start. So I don't know whether that was tactical or potentially the team just underestimated the fact that AC Milan would have had those players in midfield. I hope it's not that, because really you would expect when you set up against a team, you're prepared. Because obviously the whole point of that is building the fitness. So it could have just been one of those things that we didn't start off on the right foot in terms of it. And AC Milan midfield compared to ours that we put out was far superior. They did out sort of play us in that sense of the game. It was a strange game because I don't think we kind of didn't expect that the way that game to pan out. I think when you'd seen us how we played against Tottenham and against Inter, I kind of expected us to roll them over 1 or 2-0 and the game just to be quite flat and straightforward. But I think AC Milan probably surprised us. But it just pointed out the gaping hole that we have in that midfield, and we don't have. When we're going to talk later about the ideal starting 11, it'll be interesting to see what people say in their midfield, because I think last week we were potentially thinking Fernandes is going to be in there, or you're going to have Dybala coming in as a number 10, and that changes the dynamic. And it could be actually that we don't bring anyone in. So an area that we really need to address, and we haven't addressed for a while in terms of that. And I think it has a massive impact on how the rest of the team play, because it's always that transition from. And if you're going to high press with your front three, your midfield is going to have to be as equally mobile. And we know Nemanja Matic is not going to be able to play that high press game in any capacity.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to argue with that one. Matthew, what are your thoughts on that?
I'll make a confession. I did not actually see the AC Milan game because I was over at a friend's house the entire day. I know, shocking. But from what I could hear, spending a whole day playing Mario Kart and Smash Bros probably sounded a bit more exciting.
Probably, to be fair. Fair enough.
I heard from a few people that. Well, I saw the highlights, so I've not seen, absolutely none of the game, but not the full match. But yeah, from what I've heard from people, it just seems to have been. Points are the sort of common denominator, if you like, seems to be Matic, and that when you start him, Tomine, the pressing system just doesn't seem to work whatsoever.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work, or they don't seem to press at all. And I think that was a bit of an issue when second half, where people around Matic, or people who would have been around Matic in the first half, played so much better. In that regards, it probably wasn't the best of games in terms of how it panned out. Like I think Martin said, that game where you'd get a couple of goals and things would seem to be fine from there on.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So I thought I'd wait just a second because I thought you were going to. Oh, no, you are talking. Oh, I think. Can anybody else hear Matthew okay?
There we go.
There we go. Right,
I think we lost you there for a second, Paul.
Yep, I had to disconnect because it was going a bit funny, but I'm back now. So yeah, sorry, Matthew. Did you manage to finish your point?
Yeah, kinda. But yeah, the whole thing was the press just didn't seem to work, or we just didn't seem to see it, and that seemed to be a sort of common theme among this preseason. The really energetic pressing. And it just wasn't really the same game. But you know what? At least we've won technically. I mean, it's a sort of half win, if you like. So you could arguably say it's 5.5 wins from preseason, but you really shouldn't let that overshadow your sort of judgment of preseason as a whole when you've had 5 games where you've pretty much played really well in. So it's not a massive concern for me. It comes down to the first game of the season, how we'll actually approach that. Whether we'll go a little bit more defensive or, press from the front.
Yeah, I would agree. At the end of the day, it is 6 wins from 6. Not every game is gonna be a game where we're playing, a high press, high intensity football. There are going to be the odd games where that doesn't happen, and that's the nature of the beast. It's going to happen. But overall, I think the summer tour was a brilliant one. Again, when you compare it to the one last season, it's fantastic. Lots of great individual performances. The players are looking up for it. It was a lot of positivity to take into the new season. And speaking of the new season, 2019-2020, just around the corner, a few days from now. Let's talk about the squad strength, considering the players you've brought in and the players that have left. I'll come to you first, Martin. No, I'll come to you first, Andrew. So it seems like a long time since I've heard you speak. I miss your voice. So look, we've brought in 3 players. 3 or 4 have gone out the door. Is our squad stronger than last season?
Yes, our squad is obviously stronger than last season. That's undeniable. We improved on the 2 biggest positions that we need improvement in. Now we need to continue to improve in other positions, or at the very least, we need to not play people that should not be playing. Nemanja Matic is one of those people. I would be hard pressed to say that I'm not at least happy with what has happened so far in our summer transfer window. I mean, Harry Maguire is somebody that is going to be a huge addition at center back. Aaron Wan-Bissaka looks like a revelation at right back. My hope is that we can manage to get in at least one midfielder, because it would be somewhat inexcusable to have gotten rid of Fellaini and Herrera and not bring in someone. It's inexcusable.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Also need to say that, people that aren't fitting into what the style is that we need to do should not be playing. I mean, I get it. This is the thing, and I get it from a coaching perspective, that you want somebody out there with some experience. You want somebody out there with right word for it is, but at the same time, Nemanja Matic doesn't do anything to truly help our cause anymore. He doesn't do anything to bring a better system. I mean, we all can see, we could see throughout the preseason, whenever we were pressing as a team, that it just doesn't have what it takes to be able to do that. So, I mean, I would genuinely prefer to play, either James Gardner every game, play Nemanja Matic. I mean, and I get that, but I mean, we'll talk about lineups later, but I would make an honest guess that with Paul Pogba staying, the midfield 2 we'll see most often will be Paul Pogba and Scott McTominay. And I'll be okay with that. Same time, we still need to do something to improve in the midfield. We cannot go into the season with what we've got.
No, but 100% agree with you on that one. And Jake in the chat has put midfield 5 out of 10. Well, he's put defense is stronger, midfield is weaker, attack is the same, and that right now isn't good enough. I would agree with you on 2 of those points. I would say defense is definitely stronger. There's no argument there. Midfield definitely weaker. No arguments there. Attack, though, I don't know if anybody else will agree with me on this. I'll come to you next, Martin. But the attack, though, I do think is better than it was last season. If we've got Chong, Greenwood and Gomez coming in and will feature regularly or semi-regularly throughout the campaign, and I think they will, especially if we don't bring another striker in, I think that improves our attack on last season, based on what we've seen from them, not only in pre-season, but what they've done in the youth setup. So, Martin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, at the start of the transfer window, regardless of what was happening with Lukaku, I never ever thought that it was a position the starting 11 needed to bring a striker in. As much criticism as I kind of said last week about Martial and Rashford and them needing to step up, they are firing. If they've got 20 goals in each of them, then I don't feel that our front line needs tweaked or added to. I mean, say Sanchez is finished, there's still that little shred of hope that he comes in this season and actually starts playing well for Man United. And as you say, Greenwood, for me, I think he's done enough to warrant a start against Chelsea on the weekend. And yeah, we've got Gomez and Chong that are sitting there who can come in. So they didn't really feature at all last year. They've had a good preseason, and for me, I think they need to come in. We need to start blooding them into that team. Coming out with the team is probably a positive. As much as he can score goals, he doesn't fit with Ollie's style of football. You can clearly see that he was never going to be ever. As soon as Ollie came in, Rashford was obviously his vocal point of the team. And I think if Martial can play number 9 and get the opportunity to do well, then I kind of want to see him do well this season. I think it's a bit of a make or break for him. For me, is the area that we needed to strengthen. We've got Pogba there. He's staying or going. I don't think Man United are gonna let him go, but then he needs to actually still perform. He's still going to be a Man United player. He needs to perform, and as much as he's expressed a desire to leave, team versus not having Pogba in your team, I know which option I'd always go for. McTominay coming in, but Fred for me still hasn't done anything. Matic anymore. I think he's not the player he was 6 or 7 years ago. He was brought in as a Mourinho player to play a very defensive team. He's not really attack-minded. We've lost Fellaini. We don't have that, apart from Pogba, that real creative player that most of the teams above us have. Got De Bruyne, they've got David Silva. You look at Liverpool. Obviously, last year they made changes to their team. Field, probably not that much to worry about. But again, Spurs are really going to be in for some of the names that they're rumoured with. I think we need to be bringing in a midfielder, a creative midfielder, and I think that is the weakest point of our team.
Yep, I would agree, and we will talk about the teams around us very shortly. Matthew, I know you've been giving your views in the live chat there. So what are your thoughts? I mean, I'm guessing it's probably going to be the same as most of us, that the defence is stronger, midfield weaker. But overall, do you think we're in a stronger position than we were last season?
I think it's kind of hard to properly give that a real answer there, because the defence has gone from absolute shambles, best defences in the league, and that's including De Gea as well, who has, despite his poor last season, from the world for me. We've got Harry Maguire coming in, who, again, I've said it so many times, one of the top 5 centre-backs in the league in my opinion, but thereabouts. Yeah, from the defence standpoint, far better. Midfield though, weekend. Even if we sign Eriksen, I think it's that kind of case of gotten a better defensive midfielder, someone kind of like Ndidi, who has those qualities that Matic, I think, still thinks he has. Which has been awful for about a solid year now. I can't remember the last, actual good performance that he's put in. To a massive extent in pre-season, we just can't seem to rely on him. It's not even like he's good defensively going forward. He's terrible defensively as well. Positionally, he's absolutely awful. Doesn't seem to be adapting to his lack of pace now. So I think we should have probably got midfielders, maybe rotate with McTominay, but it is what it is. And then up front, I think up front is potential, because we've got Martial, we've got Rashford, we've got Greenwood. We've got all those young players who could turn out to be absolute world beaters, but at the same time, work out this season. So I think it's just such an unknown sort of entity, if you like, in terms of the forward 3 positions. But then you've got players like Sanchez, who has been awful for United so far. Managed to actually make a claim to be in the first team, and if he does get in the first team, how's he actually going to really play well if his confidence at United seems to be completely shot? From the standpoint, it just seems it could be anything. We could have an absolutely amazing season where all the forwards banging goals, season where those forwards, like I mentioned, are just not going to do anything. So I think it's pretty much random in terms of a front line, but a whole squad, it's gotten a little bit better, but not too much better. I think it's gotten better in different areas, but not overall.
Do you guys think there's an expectation that Man United fans have that this transfer window is going to fix everything? Because you look at this, I hate to compare us to teams above us at the minute, but you kind of have to. We've obviously replaced in areas that they needed to in each window. To me, we had to address the defence. We had to do that this season, this transfer window. Some fans will potentially over wish for us to get every single position sorted out. But if we brought in five players, I don't think we would have in one season. You kind of have to fix each problem as it goes, and I think that's why when you look at giving Harry Maguire a 6-year contract, it's for the longer term. So I'm hoping that kind of says that the manager's going to be given time to rebuild.
Yeah,
in one transfer window.
I think I don't think. Well, I don't know. Maybe some people do think it. Maybe some people do think that this one transfer window needs to solve all our problems. Personally, I don't think it is. What I was hoping from this transfer window was at least 4 or 5 signings to at least address the key areas, and then transfer windows going forward were used to sort of supplement the squad and add some quality and depth to it. And I think so far this transfer window, if we do manage to sign either Fernandes or Eriksen, I think personally we can call it a good window because we've addressed our key areas, at least most of them. We know that Ed Woodward and co aren't capable of a huge overhaul, but I think to get 4 signings out of them is probably the best we can hope for. And the fact that we've done that, or if we do that, I think I'd be happy with that. MK Folger in the chat asks, who is our 20-plus goal a season striker? I think it's more likely to be Rashford than Martial, but would love a York Cole scenario with them 2 up top. No idea which one of those is going to be the 20 goal a season striker. 1 minute, over one period of time, it's looking like it's going to be Rashford. Then it's looking like it's going to be Martial. Really have no idea. I think what we will see with those two, though, with the whole of the front 3 that play, I think we will see a lot of interchanging across the front 3. So you'll have Rashford playing down the middle for X amount of time during the game. Martial will have a go down the middle. Greenwood will have a go down the middle. Whoever's playing, I think we'll see a lot of interchanging, which is what we've seen through the pre-season, and it's kind of worked well. But what you never know might happen is one of them might go on a goal scoring streak and actually cement that position, and then the wide players will interchange. We just don't know what's going to happen.
I think we can probably definitely say that the pair of them are going to play more frequently with each other than as a preferred option. With previously we've seen Lukaku as the 9 and either Rashford and or Martial playing. Whereas I think if Lukaku comes out of the team, plus one other in that front 3. That's that. If you look at the way pre-season's gone, I think the sort of onus or trust is going to be given to the pair of them playing at the same time. How they do that, I don't know, but I think that's what we'll see. So I think they both have to put a shift in this season.
Absolutely, 100%. And Jake in the chat says, I don't know if he typed this after I said it or if I said it after he typed it, but he says this window was needed to fix key areas and then upgrade on positions in future windows. 100% agree with you there, Jake. So let's look at the teams around us then. Unless I've just missed somebody out. Has everyone had a little go at that? The squad strength? I'm pretty sure I came to everybody on that one.
Yep.
Wicked. So let's have a look at the teams around us. Let me think of what our expectations are going to be for the upcoming season. Let's focus mainly on the Premier League. If you look at the teams around us, so Spurs, for example, they've brought in Ndombele, so that strengthens their already strong midfield. There's obviously talk right now that a deal has been agreed to bring in Paulo Dybala. The only notable outgoings are Kieran Trippier and quite possibly Christian Eriksen. So Spurs have done a good bit of business. They look like they're strengthening, improving on what they were last season. Then we've got Arsenal, who have brought in Pepe and Caballos from Real Madrid. Outgoings notable, Koscielny and Ramsey. So Arsenal, they've strengthened. Maybe not as much as we have. Chelsea have obviously re-signed Kovacic on a permanent deal. He was obviously there last season. But they've lost Hazard, Cahill and Higuain. His loan spell obviously finished. So they're definitely weaker than they were last season. So when you consider that movement with all those teams, what would you expect us to do in comparison to them, and possibly even what would you predict our league finish to be? Andrew, I'll come to you first.
So the one thing I will say, so I mean, I promise I'm not trying to sound like, I'm a hater or anything like that, but Arsenal to me really didn't do anything to strengthen their attack was never their problem, and they did literally nothing to improve their defense. So I'm not worried about Arsenal in the very least. Spurs, I mean, so far signing in Ndombele, I mean that's an improvement for them, especially if some of the rumors of Dybala, being signed by them are true. That would be very, very interesting. Obviously, they didn't do a whole lot, but they've done a bit of business. Liverpool have done nothing. I mean, I don't think Liverpool did any business this summer.
They brought in some from Fulham, haven't they? And they brought in a young lad from Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, they've done nothing to like really like improve themselves. I mean, the only other team and is Chelsea, and I mean, Hazard, and they can't bring in anybody. I mean, they've got about 9,000 people they can bring back from loan, but that's about it. I mean, I will be interested to see how. I mean, he's one of my favorite players because he's an American, and Christian Pulisic will go into the Premier League and how he'll do. But I would say overall, we've done enough to improve our team. Like obviously, like I said, we need at least a midfield signing. We've done enough to say that we're gonna be fighting for a top 4 spot, and I can almost guarantee that. I mean, I would even go as far as say we will make top 4. League Cup is always a crapshoot. I would say FA Cup. I mean, depending on what the draw is. I could see us making a deep FA Cup run. I could see Ollie really targeting that one as a trophy he wants to win. And then Europa League, I mean, is its own thing in itself. I mean, I'll say it now. I hope that we don't focus on the Europa League. I hope that we'll be playing the kids or our reserve players in Europa League. And then maybe if we advance through after that, like into the I think it's the round of 16 with the Europa League as well, right? Or is it round of 32 with Europa League?
I think it's 32 Europa League.
Yeah, pretty sure it's 32. Yeah,
that's what I thought. Okay, so it's 32. If we advance on to the round of 32, maybe don't take the round of 32 seriously. Still play reserves and kids, but if we make it to the round of 16, maybe you could be like, okay, well, we've got to win, these next 4 sets of games, or we can qualify for Champions League guaranteed. I mean, at that point, maybe you could say we should focus on it. But I think that overall, we shouldn't be focusing on Europa League.
I think you could also say it depends on how we're performing in the league, because if we're comfortably in the top 4 by the time we reach the last 32 or last 16, and it's looking like we are going to qualify for the Champions League, then I would say continue playing the kids.
Yeah, exactly. Give them experience. Give them, experience in some big games, because those are big games, whether you like it or not. And it could be great experience for them. So that's going to be what I hope we are focusing on the league and the FA Cup, try and qualify for top 4, try and qualify for Champions League. And then maybe next summer we have an even bigger summer because we have that Champions League football. Maybe next summer is the summer we could try and say, go get somebody like Jadon Sancho, so somebody of a big name. Obviously Dave has been working on that. Santan Dave has been working on that. So we'll see if it happens.
Excellent. And I'll come to you next, Matthew.
I think in terms of realistic expectations, Like, let's face it, we're not really going to be on the level of Man City and Liverpool, but I think if we try and do last season and separate us from the rest of the top four, or the top six, if you like, and sort of cement that place above them as our own, pretty successful season, whether we end up finishing third, which would be, absolutely fantastic considering how dire we were at the end of last season. If we are with Spurs, is that kind of not quite top two, but better than fifth and sixth? I think that should kind of be the area that we should realistically aim for. But like you said, performances in other competitions will also affect the Premier League and the other way around as well. So in terms of Europa League, just play quite a lot of the squad players and the kids in it to see how far we get. If we get far, then fair enough. If we don't, then it just means that our schedule is going to be slightly less tightly packed, which you can't really complain about. It also depends on the next 48 hours if we actually sign someone. I think if we get Christian Eriksen, then I think our expectation should be top four at least. And then from a starting 11 viewpoint, I think we're probably definitely top four. The teams like Arsenal, for example, yeah, it's good signing all those attacking talents. They've now got three absolutely brilliant players in the front three positions. 5-4, because they've got no defence. And they actually signed a defender, but loaned him out for a year, which I think is an absolutely ridiculous move for them. To be honest, are just such an unknown. Terrible, and Frank Lampard gets sacked halfway through the season, or they can surprise everyone and do as did last season, nearly challenge up until the last couple of months. And I think a kind of added advantage for Chelsea, but the fact that those players have now been together for at least a year now, so they know each other a lot more, and they'll have that kind of camaraderie between them. And Eriksen or Fernandes, for that matter, I'd say top four is definitely a realistic outlook in the season. I think it should be our aim. More than 2 seasons outside of Champions League, because obviously, in terms of the Glazers, they're not going to be happy with that, with the kit deals. There's a massive amount of money if that happens. So yeah, top four should definitely be the aim. Fourth or third, depending on what happens.
I like your enthusiasm and your positivity there, Matthew. Martin, what are your thoughts on what are your expectations? So based on all the ingoings and outgoings from the teams around us, the business that we've done, the way our squad is at the moment compared to the squads of other teams, what are your expectations for us going into this season?
Looking at the teams above us, you look at City and Liverpool, they've only made slight tweaks. I don't think Liverpool are going to pull a big money signing out in the next 2 days. I think City's business is pretty much done. I may live to eat these words, but I genuinely don't think Liverpool will be able to pull off as good a season as they had last year. I know that people are saying, Liverpool's next step is to win the league. I think City over the full season will outperform Liverpool. So I think the league is City's really a game to go for. I think Liverpool will chase them, but strength and depth in their team. I don't think they if you look at their 23-man squad, if they lose a couple of key players, Liverpool teams are going to figure Liverpool out this year. Their 2 wing backs played such a key role. They played last season, the amount of assists that they brought to the team. I don't think Liverpool are going to be up there as clearly in terms of the gap between first and second and third and fourth. I think Tottenham will be up there, and I agree with what Matthew said in terms of Man United's expectation is that they need to cement either a third or fourth place position throughout the season. There needs to be a decent gap between us and fifth and sixth. I know I said this at the start that I don't want to have any pressure on the team or expectation that we have to go out and win and take part in every competition, because I don't think we have the strength and depth in our own team. But I think the league has to be our priority in terms of finishing in that top four. I think the youth need to be blooded in the early stages of Europa, and I think that's the time when you play the likes of Ashley Young and Nemanja Matic in the defence, and bring in Smalling and things like that. So we've got enough strength and depth to be able to deal with the Europa League as well as the Premier League. I don't think we can target both and expect to do really well in the league and also win the Europa. The pressure, the expectation is Man United need to be in the Champions League. We have to finish and get into the Champions League. And I think what I don't want is that similar to that season with Mourinho, where fourth was in our hands. We lost fourth and then the field in the Europa League, because I kind of think it masked that season a little bit. I don't really think we had a good season when we won the Europa, just much like last year. I think Tottenham potentially might be doing the better business. I think Arsenal's team, they've strengthened in areas that they didn't need to strengthen in. Spending that money on Pepe when your club captain's just gone to Bordeaux for 5 million and is absolutely delighted with the move that he's got out of Arsenal seems bizarre to me. Arsenal's back four is atrocious, and I'm not sure whether I rate Leno that much in terms of a goalkeeper. I think he needs a good back four in front of him. Chelsea is a complete anomaly to me. I think with them losing Hazard, they do not have a match winner in their team. But I think they could struggle, to be honest. And I don't think Lampard will be given the time to build that team. To me, if he's not getting results halfway through the season, we know what their Abramovich is like. He's completely orientated by the results and how well the team does overall, as opposed to building the project there. But I don't know what your guys' thoughts on Liverpool are. But I genuinely can't see them having the same last year. I think that teams will inevitably figure them out.
I think it was Ollie that said in a post-match interview when he was manager of Cardiff, when he was asked about Liverpool's title chances, I think his words were, "Couldn't care less."
Care less.
Yeah. I mirror those comments. But I think for me, the expectation, I don't want to put a league position on it. I do think, though, that we will be in a scrap with the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal again for top four. I don't think it's a dead cert. I think I think the chance would increase, like Matthew said, if we did bring in a Fernandes or an Eriksen. I think at that point then you're looking a bit better. But what I would expect at the very least is, regardless of our league finish, providing it's not mid-table or below, is that the football improves, that we have several moments in a game where we're on the edge of our seats. You know what I mean? Giving us something to cheer about, to celebrate. That's what I expect from the team. And in terms of blooding in the youth players, I don't think that should just be done in the cup competitions. The Premier League is a different animal. That the Premier League is where they're going to be playing most of their games throughout their career, providing they stay at United or another Premier League team. I think we need to rotate in all competitions. So, for example, if we've got a game coming up against, let's say in the Europa League or any competition, if we've got a semi-decent team, then we shouldn't just play the kids. I think we should still put one or two of them in maybe, but keep a lot of the first team players in there as well. Because if following that game we're playing against, I don't know, Norwich in the Premier League, you can also rotate a little bit there as well. Do you see what I mean? So I think the rotation should happen across all competitions, and all competitions should be taken seriously. I mean, we are Manchester United after all. We want to win silverware no matter what it is. Obviously, it gets to a point where you do prioritise Premier League and Champions League over the other ones, but we're not at that level just yet. So I think that
I know. Look what they've done to us over the past 6 years. They've put doubt in all of our minds. we don't think we can compete on all levels, and we should be. So yeah, you're right, Paul.
Yeah, we'll get there. I have no doubt eventually. But the other concern I have is with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, in that he is not an experienced Premier League manager at this level. We have seen in the second half of last season that he can, he is good with tactics, and he can pull out important wins. But at the same time, the second half of that half of the season, so the last quarter of the season, it sort of all fell apart slightly. So there is that niggling doubt in the back of my mind as well, is whether or not Ollie has the noose to take us up there. I hope he does. At the moment, I'm thinking he does, but there's just that little niggling doubt in the back of my mind that, you know, when it comes to the crunch, can he get the players together to pull through? If we go into a bad spell, has he got what it takes to bring the players together and get them out of that, if that makes sense? That's one worry that I do have, because we didn't see that at the end of last season. He couldn't bring them out of it. We finished very, very poorly. So there's that aspect that puts a little bit of doubt in my mind. So I do think that over the course of the season, well, come the end of the season, we will be in a bit of a scrap. It will be touch and go if we make top four. I hope I'm wrong. When I was listening to you speak then, Martin, and you were speaking about, obviously, Chelsea losing Hazard and not having that match winner, and Arsenal's back four being absolutely poor, did fill me with a little bit more hope. And I thought, well, it was the same for both of those teams last season, obviously bar Hazard, yet we still managed to struggle. But on the flip side, we have strengthened slightly. But we do need, I would feel a lot better if we do bring in an Eriksen or a Fernandes, because I think at that point you've got that key player, that creative player in the squad. You can't just rely on Pogba for that all the time, but you'll have that player that would give us that extra dimension, that extra dynamic within the team. Without that, I think we'll struggle. That's what I think anyway. But go on.
I think from the Ollie perspective, how his man management comes out, I don't think we've seen any of that yet. How is he going to cope when not keeping every player happy in that squad? How do the players react when they're not playing, when they want to be playing? You know, we had a manager who was one of the world's best in the game at being able to motivate players when they weren't starting or weren't in that first team. So, and I think he's got some big calls to make as well. I still think he's got some big decisions to make in terms of if he is going to bring in the youth players into the Premier League and play them, how does he keep other squad knowing that that's happening? So it's a big. I think he's got that's a big job in itself. Never mind getting the results. It's keeping all the players happy, because we know Mourinho certainly didn't. Certainly he had favourites and players that we thought should have been playing and weren't playing, and players that didn't feel like they were wanted at the club. So I think that's half the battle for me.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. Has everybody had their say on the expectations and predictions?
Think so.
I'm going to assume that is the case. Well, let's move forward then. Let's have a little bit of fun, shall we? So we've all seen all of, if not most of, the games from pre-season. We've all had a good glimpse of what new signings, obviously with the exception of Maguire, but we know a bit about him anyway. We've seen what the players have got to offer. We've seen the progressive football on display and how we can expect the team to be performing going into next season. So based on all of that, I want us to give our best 11 based on what we've seen. And I'm going to say that, obviously we'll include Maguire in it, but I'm going to say we won't include Fernandes or Eriksen or any other new signing potential, because simply we don't have them yet and there's no guarantee that we will. So I'm thinking what I'll do is if I give mine, and then I'll come to you one at a time, and if any of you have any different players, then basically mention them, just to save a bit of time, everyone giving a full 11, if that makes sense. Does that sound cool? Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to start in goal, David De Gea. Obvious. I think everybody would go for him. I'm going with the 4-2-3-1 formation, because that is the primary formation we have played this pre-season. So the back four, Wan-Bissaka, obviously, at right back. Then you've got Lindelof and Maguire as the centre-backs, and then Shaw at left-back. And then two midfielders, I'm going Scott McTominay and Pogba. And this is where it might differ from some people. In the number 10 role, at present, I'm going with Juan Mata. And then the striker, I'm going with Marcus Rashford. Playing out on the left, I'm going with Martial. And out on the right, I'm going with Greenwood. Now, with regards to Rashford and Martial and that number 9 role, we should call it, I think we'll see those two interchanging quite a lot, maybe even Greenwood as well. So I think they're all going to get a chance of playing in that role. So for me, our best 11 going into the next season, my 11 for Chelsea would be Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, Shaw, David De Gea in goal, obviously, McTominay and Pogba, Mata at 10, Greenwood, Rashford, Martial. Andrew, I'll come to you first. Any deviation from that?
Honestly, that's spot on for exactly what I was going to say. The only change I could see Ollie potentially make is that maybe Mason Greenwood won't start. Maybe he'll be coming off the bench. And then from there, it would be, I don't know if it would be on the right wing, but I would think based on the preseason and what we've seen and what they can do, we believe that Mason Greenwood has earned a starting spot this season.
Yeah, I would totally agree. My fear is that instead of McTominay, he's going to put Matic in there. That's my fear. And instead of Greenwood, he'll put Lingard in there. That's my fear. How about anyone else? Go on. Sorry, Andrew, go on.
No, I was going to say that is my absolute fear too. Is that now I do think that Scott McTominay has done enough, and I think that with the way that the club is hyping him up, no way that Scott McTominay won't be playing. It's that right wing position. It's the position where we all think Greenwood should be playing. That's where I get really nervous. I worry about him just playing Lingard out there just because he likes Lingard.
Yeah, that is my fear as well. I'll come to you next, Matthew. What's your first 11?
Pretty much say the exact same. I think the number 10 role could be taken up by a number of people. Like, you've got Mata, who, obviously over the years, apart from the times where he's been out in the right wing, but that's not really his fault. He's not a winger. But when he's played as a number 10 on tour, he seems to be doing a little bit better. Not absolutely amazing, but seems to be putting in solid performances. Or Angel Gomez, who's massively impressed on the tour for me, no matter what position that he's playing in. I think he's played across all three of the positions behind the striker. And then you've kind of got Andy Pereira as a bit of a wild card. Probably start Mata.
Yeah,
so
now
it would be essentially the same starting 11 as you.
So I mean, just going back to last week, I was singing Pereira's praises, saying that him and McTominay could have a brilliant battle this season. But I thought against AC Milan, he just seemed all out of sorts, Pereira. But it's just one game. Everybody has an off game from time to time. Martin, your 11. How much does it differ from what I've put out?
I think as I said, I think it's the number 10 position that is the question mark. I believe Mason Greenwood's done enough to start ahead of Daniel James on that right side of a front three. I think Martial might get the nod as the centre forward, and potentially Rashford might move out to the left wing or either side. I think Martial for me potentially goes. I think he goes in ahead of Rashford in terms of, I think he's a better finisher than Rashford. I think he's far more composed. So I think if you're looking at our best 11 or the best striker that we've got with Rashford and Martial, I think Martial takes the centre forward role for me. The number 10 role, you could throw Jesse Lingard in there. You know how Jesse Lingard was kind of playing that position for England.
Yep, and he sort of played that position to an extent against AC Milan when he came
like a false nine behind the front three kind of thing. Because I feel like we're going to try and accommodate like Jesse Lingard in there as opposed to Pereira or Mata. I think Jesse Lingard potentially could move into that position, and then if Mason Greenwood isn't playing as in that team, then Jesse Lingard goes on the right. So I think Jesse Lingard for some reason gets shoehorned in somewhere. I think that's a position that we need, and I think that's where we're talking about transfers and things. How does our squad look like if you've got Christian Eriksen sitting in that position at the top of the midfield?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Jake in the chat has just said Gomez and Chong played for the youth academy tonight. Greenwood didn't, so I can only see Greenwood travelling with the squad for the Chelsea game. Whilst that's good news that Greenwood didn't play and could well indeed travel with the squad, it does disappoint me a little bit that Gomez and Chong may not be, because I think that all three of them need to be in almost every matchday squad when you consider how light our midfield and attack is in terms of depth. So if Gomez and Chong, or at least one of them, isn't in that squad, I'll be very, very disappointed. Very disappointed.
I think that one of them will be. I mean, I watched a bit of the game, and I think that one of them will be. I think that was more just to get them more game time.
Did they play a full 90 minutes?
I was just about to say that, because really, did Chong and Gomez play as many minutes as anyone else on the tour? Because they tend to came on early on in the game, start of the second half, and then as it came to the end, they were coming on for like the last 10, 15 minutes, weren't they? So
True.
More game time.
Yeah, I do think that was the case. I think it was just a case of them getting more game time. And just ultimately, I'll say this: if for some reason, and Martin, it's kind of what you were just talking about with Jesse Lingard getting shoehorned into that number 10 position. Did play him at the number 10. I wouldn't be super upset. I still think that Juan Mata should be that guy. But I don't want to see both Mata and Lingard wind up starting, because I feel like that would be a regression for doing this preseason.
Yeah,
agreed.
Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that. Is that everyone?
I believe.
I think so.
Cool. I do lose track. So many people in here. Well, let's move forward then. Just get the right screen up. So we're pretty much, I would say, we're pretty much agreed on the best 11 that we could possibly put out at the moment. Obviously, we don't know who's going to come in over the next couple of days. Obviously, the right wing and the number 10 role could be, well, we just don't know until the lineup's released on Sunday afternoon. But let's move forward then. I'm going to go over to Twitter, because we did put out a tweet earlier today, and we've had a few responses. Right off the bat, Gregory at manred80 says, "Please could Matthew speak up in the mic? His voice is so low compared to the rest of you." Well, I hope, Gregory, that when you listen to this podcast, you do see a significant difference, because he is definitely much louder this time. And Jake, he's been in the chat tonight. Thoughts on Eriksen? Do you want him? Would you take him? I think it's a resounding yes from all of us, unless any of you have got a different opinion. I'll throw that out to you now.
Hell no. Honestly, I think that, to me, would actually be quite the steal this late in the summer, because Premier League proven, would take no time to adjust, is in the peak of his career right now. I mean, you can make that he's entering the peak of his career right now, and there's literally nothing that any of us could complain about if we got Christian Eriksen. I would still prefer Bruno Fernandes. I will say it. I would prefer Bruno Fernandes, but Eriksen, that would be a steal.
One thing you can say about Eriksen is his consistency over his years in the Premier League. He's consistently delivered assists, goals every season. So he would be an absolutely fantastic player to bring in. I don't know who I'd prefer over Eriksen or Fernandes, if I'm honest. Fernandes, I believe, is a couple of years younger, isn't he? 24, 25?
I wanted yeah, he's definitely younger. I wanted Eriksen before he signed for Spurs. 5 years ago, I think, when we were hunting for like a new midfielder. Yeah. I think we'll probably overpay for him, but I think we'll get a good 4 years out of him at the peak. And he would stop Rosette Blasties from Rashford on free kicks.
Yes, absolutely. So there's a positive. Okay, Rob Allen at Robert Allen 85. What do you think of Lukaku's behaviour over the last week? Was leaking the technical data a bit of a joke, or major breach of tactical data showing disrespect to the club? Matthew?
His attitude has been absolutely disgraceful, if I'm honest. I think, even though that's relatively, in terms of what other data you could put out, you're leaking private data. stuff that's going to be used by the data analyst and the coaching team, and you're just deciding, you know what, I'm just going to film this to prove that I'm not slow or whatever. Prove a great deal. It's all about how fast you are in games. It's sort of like, see when you're in class and a teacher asks a question and you put your hand up and you're thinking, I know this answer, you're so confident. It's wrong. That's what Lukaku's like right now. Having to be forced to delete that social media post is just even worse for him. He just doesn't seem to be helping himself whatsoever. And I've seen one or two people say, oh, you know, a lot of the fans are giving Lukaku a lot of stick this season. Yeah, that's true. But as a footballer, you should be able to, and don't let that get to you. Enough to properly conduct yourself off the pitch. And what he's done, you know, there's that whole training with Anzalek under 18 thing, which apparently was given permission by the club. But from some people saying, actually, no, he's not been given permission to have an extended stay with the Anzalek team. Even more to his unprofessionalism, I think that he's really someone who doesn't really care about the club. He actually just cares more about Jose Mourinho. And I think that's one of the big reasons why he actually signs in the first place. Lukaku, like you can talk about his goal record, absolutely fantastic goal record, but I think the quicker he goes, the better. Really.
Anyone else got
this kind of toxic personality?
I think that I'm just going to say real quick. I think that's one of the most disrespectful things you can do. Basically, he was trying to talk shit on his teammates. That's what he's trying to do. Absolutely inexcusable. And nobody, I said this on Twitter, nobody has ever said that Romelu Lukaku is slow. Question his fitness and his ability to have a good touch. Those are the things we've always questioned about him. It's never been about his pace. So if he ever thought that it was about his pace, then he's a bigger idiot than I even thought he was.
I think he's suddenly realised that coming into Man United and the way we want to play, especially under Ollie, when he realised that he couldn't keep up with that, it's almost like he's using his pace as something to cling on to. That's what it seems
He's
like.
He's a bit insecure now.
Yeah. And I don't, with regards to the whole leaking of the data thing, I don't think that was done intentionally to disrespect the club. I think that was just a bit of poor judgment on his part. I think he was literally just trying to boast. I don't think it was showing any disrespect, so to speak. But let's look at it from his point of view. He's been left out of the squad all summer, pending a move, and going to Anderlecht. I would imagine that he probably has been given permission to do that. So I don't see any reason why he shouldn't. He's clearly not going to be a part of the United squad, so I think it would be good for United to give him permission to go and train with someone else. I think it's a very what's the word I'm looking for? I'll just say nice thing to do, to give him that opportunity to go and do that. So that's just my thoughts on that. Then if any of you, any others got any thoughts to give on the Lukaku situation?
I just think he should have got his head down in pre-season, regardless of whether he was staying or going. He should have got his head down, he should have got back into training, he should have contributed. Simple as that. Whether he was staying or going, he should have been professional. Polishing the whole thing. He's not getting what he wants as soon as he wants. And if and when he does get a move, he's not going to be fit. He's going to be off the pace wherever he goes, so good luck to him.
Yep, fair comments. I think we've got time for one more. Let's go with Adrian Wall, MUFC. Do you think Ollie will give the likes of Angel and Greenwood chances this season, or do you think they should go on loan? Do any of you think that they should go on loan? Me personally, absolutely not. I think they should stay in and around the squad and learn their trade here at Man United. I think they will get plenty of chances this season. Does anybody think differently?
No.
I guess that's a resounding no from everybody, which is what I kind of expected.
What I will say, Paul, is that if they're not going to be given time, then they should be going out on loan.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
They'll be given time.
But I'd like to think that they'll be given time, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they will be given time.
I think we'd know by now, wouldn't we, if they were going to be given time? Because I think they would have already gone on loan.
Yeah,
I know loan deals can happen after the window shuts, can't they?
True.
I'm sure
So, yeah.
they don't have to have all the paperwork in. So I think it may be that one of them might go on loan, but I think if they're going to go on loan, they have to go in the Premier League. We've seen teams or at least got the Championship, but I think that they need to stay in like the top English leagues.
Yeah, we don't want another Pereira situation where last minute he goes abroad on loan. We've seen that. Was it last season or season before last? Mourinho wanted him to stay, but obviously couldn't guarantee
2017.
him. 2017 was it? Yeah, Mourinho wanted him to stay, but he couldn't guarantee him the minutes that he wanted, so he decided to go on loan. We don't want that with any of the current crop of youngsters coming through. That would just be a great shame.
I would say that they've been told what their minutes are potentially going to be or what role they're going to play. So I think it might be the ball might be in their court as to whether or not they want to go on loan or they want to stay in.
Yeah.
I just think we would have heard more if they were going to go, especially with those three being so talked about on pre-season. I mean, Greenwood's been mentioned by loads of media outlets in terms of like a rising star and one to watch this season. So to me, if any of them were going to go on loan, I think would have heard some whispers by now. To me, I think.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. I think we'll wrap it up there. We have been going on just over an hour. And here's me, Mr. 30 minutes maximum. That's way back in the history. I think I've let go of that policy now. The podcast very rarely lasts less than an hour. Isn't that right, guys?
Yeah.
I think,
Right.
Andrew, you'll probably remember most the fact that I used to hate going above 30 minutes. But it's just impossible, isn't it, to keep it below that? So it is what it is. But
I was
guys,
one of the people that said you should start going longer because people would listen.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are still listening, an hour and 10 minutes into it, drop us a tweet. We appreciate your what's what I'm looking for? Dedication. There we go. So yeah, guys, thank you for joining me, Andrew. It's a pleasure to have you on as always. Do you want to give out your details?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, man. So it's at RedBeardedRed on Twitter. Follow me over there. Talk all sports. Got to start talking a lot of Manchester United, and I talk Phoenix Rising as well. That's my local soccer team here in Arizona. They're on a 12-game win streak right now. They're on a just crazy run of just setting records in the league we're in. So give them a follow. They're awesome. And then it's the Red Bearded Red on YouTube. Come find me over there. I will be going live tomorrow for the first time in about a month. Back to it, and I am excited for it.
Yeah, so everybody get over there. The link to his YouTube channel will be in the description for this video, as well as his Twitter account. So be sure to follow and subscribe. Matthew, would you like to give out your details? Thank you again for joining us.
Boys, thanks for having me on again. Twitter is @_Matthew, MAFFOO, and the Etsy store is offsidegraphics.com. What I'm going to say is, if you want to get yourself a print, get one very, very soon, because I'm not sure if I've mentioned it enough on Twitter, but I'm going to Phoenix, Arizona to see Andrew for about 10 days, so obviously I won't be able to do much there. If you want, I've uploaded a bunch of new posters, so yeah, it's all good at the moment.
And again, the link to that Etsy store, the offsidegraphics.com, is in the description, as well as Matthew's Twitter details. When I say in the description, I do mean on YouTube. This will be uploaded onto YouTube. And then Martin, thank you for joining us. Do you want to give out your details?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me again. You can follow me on Twitter @MartinHPit. I've got an Etsy store, but the less said about that the minute the better, because I've been lazy and not uploaded anything to it. But if you want to go and grab yourself a bargain, I'm trying to get rid of some old stuff. So that's I think it's at Martin PR. I can't remember. It's in my profile, but I have actually got quite a lot of stuff to upload onto there, mostly Man United related. But we'll see how the season goes.
Excellent. And again,
thanks for having us, and give us a follow if you want.
Absolutely. And again, Martin's details for his Etsy store, his Twitter account, also are in the video description below. So be sure to click the links, follow, subscribe, and do what you do best. And thank you to all of you who are listening for sticking through us. Hopefully the recording quality this week was much better. Some lessons learned from last week. If you don't already, follow myself at Paul Gardiner MU. You can follow the United Stand Talking Manchester United podcast account at United Stand Pod, and also the main United Stand account at United Stand MUFC. And whilst you are over on YouTube, because you're going to be going over there to subscribe to the Red Bearded Red, whilst you're there, go and subscribe to the Van Cam as well. Kevin Ashford's Van Cam, absolutely hilarious, and obviously the main United Stand fan channel if you haven't already. I think that about wraps it up. I've probably missed all sorts, but hey, it is what it is.
One last.
Yep.
I think Kev's Van Cam Fantasy League on the PremierLeague.com website. If anyone wants to join, I think he's posted it on Twitter. I don't know what the code is, but I think he's got a good 30 or 40 people in. If anyone's doing Premier League fantasy football this year.
There you go. Look up Kev Ashford on Twitter. I think literally if we just type in his name, his account will come up, and hopefully, as Martin's just said, there will be some links or some details at least on his Twitter account. So that's it from us. We'll be back next week. I would say Tuesday again. If any of you are up for it, I don't think Andrew or Martin, Matthew, you'll be available next week, will you?
No, I don't think so.
No, that's
I'll
fair
be
enough.
available next week.
There we go. We've got Andrew and Martin. If you're free next Tuesday.
I'll be in sunny Spain for the next from Monday for 10 days, so it'll probably be a good 2 weeks before I'm available again.
And that's right, as long as I'm not on my own. All right, brilliant. Well, thanks everyone again, and thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next week.